The Curse of Goatman's Bridge, Texas. Deep in the rural backroads of Texas, hidden among tangled trees, stands Old Alton Bridge, better known today as Goatman's Bridge. By day it appears as nothing more than an old wooden structure stretching over the Elm Fork River, but by night it becomes something else entirely, a gateway to another world where dark entities roam and terrifying phenomena unfold. In the early 20th century, a man named Oscar Washington lived near the bridge, a humble African-American farmer known for raising goats and selling their milk. But many believed he was more than just a farmer. Some whispered that he practiced dark magic, speaking in strange tongues to his goats and making them obey unnatural commands. Others claimed that livestock purchased from his farm often vanished without a trace within days. Oscar lived peacefully with his wife and children, but some townspeople despised him. In 1938, a rumor spread that he was performing sinister rituals in the forest and using children as sacrifices. There was no evidence, but the mere suggestion was enough to enrage a group of violent racist men who decided to end his life. One night, a mob of masked men stormed Oscar's house, dragged him from his screaming family, and marched him to the bridge. They tied his hands behind his back, placed a noose around his neck, and threw him off the side, expecting to watch him struggle in his final moments. But when they looked down to see his lifeless body dangling from the rope, they saw nothing. The rope was swinging empty, and the water below was undisturbed, as if he had simply vanished into thin air. The men were shaken and returned to town in uneasy silence. But that night, things began to change. People started hearing unnatural groaning sounds echoing through the forest and red eyes glowing between the trees. A few days later, two of the men who had led the lynching mysteriously disappeared, never to be seen again. As the years passed, locals began to report terrifying encounters near the bridge. Witnesses described seeing a massive creature, half man, half goat, lurking in the woods. He had long twisted horns and glowing red eyes that burned in the darkness. Some claimed that he ran on two legs, while others swore he moved on all fours at an inhuman speed, letting out a deep, guttural sound somewhere between a goat's bleat and a human's growl. The bridge became notorious for strange occurrences. People started disappearing. Livestock was found slaughtered, and eerie laughter echoed through the trees at night. Many who dared to visit the bridge at night came back with terrifying stories. A 1999 incident involved three friends recording a video at the bridge at Tigofria Mititi. When they reviewed the footage later, they saw a tall, shadowy figure standing at the far end of the bridge for a split second before vanishing. In Diaries in 2004, a group of tourists visited the bridge and heard the sound of hooves running toward them, though nothing was visible. As they rushed to leave, one of them felt an icy hand shove him toward the edge of the bridge. Perhaps the most disturbing case happened in Palm 2013, when a college student went to the bridge with her friends as a joke. Minutes after arriving, she suddenly froze, staring at the forest as if she saw something the others could not. When they asked her what was wrong, she didn't speak, only raised her hand and pointed at the trees. Then she collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably, before passing out. When she awoke later, she muttered, "I saw him. He was watching us. He smiled at me." The bridge still stands today, but it is no longer just an old crossing. It is a cursed place where whispers ride the wind and the trees seem to shift when no one is looking. Many visitors have reported hearing their names being called by unseen voices and feeling watched every second they spent near the bridge. There is only one rule agreed upon by all who have been there. If you hear hooves behind you, do not turn around. Stull Cemetery, the gateway to hell. Deep in the heart of Kansas, hidden in a desolate field where silence is more terrifying than noise lies. Stull Cemetery, one of the most haunted places in America. Small and seemingly forgotten, this cemetery holds a dark legend that has terrified locals for generations. There is something unnatural about this place, something that draws in those seeking the thrill of the unknown, but few leave without carrying a story that will haunt them forever. For centuries, locals have whispered that this cemetery is unlike any other. They believe that the devil himself appears here twice a year, specifically on Halloween night and the spring equinox. It is said that he emerges from a specific grave beneath the ruins of an old church that once stood in the cemetery. That church, which crumbled long ago, was rumored to be a gathering place for dark forces. The legend claims that beneath its foundations lies a hidden gateway to hell, invisible to the naked eye but said to open on those 2 nights each year. Anyone who gets too close vanishes without a trace, and those who dare to listen to the voices rising from the graves either go insane or are haunted for the rest of their lives. One of the most terrifying occurrences in Stull Cemetery is the presence of shadows that move without bodies. Witnesses have reported seeing black figures gliding between the graves, only to disappear when approached. One visitor who entered the cemetery past midnight claimed he'd felt something walking behind him but saw no one. When he finally made it back to the road, he discovered deep scratches on his arms as if something unseen had tried to grab him. Many paranormal investigators who have visited the cemetery have recorded unexplained voices coming from beneath the graves. One investigator captured Bayam whispering in an ancient, unknown language, while another recorded muffled screams as if someone buried underground was trying to claw their way out. Even the locals warn against stepping near the cemetery after dark because many have heard heavy footsteps circling them and a chilling laughter echoing through the night. In 1978, a young man who boasted that he would prove the cemetery was not haunted walked in with his friends but never walked out. His friends searched frantically, but he was nowhere to be found. When they contacted the police, no trace of him was ever discovered, even after weeks of searching. In 1995, a group of journalists came to investigate the legend, but one of them entered alone near the ruined church and was never seen again. Authorities never found an explanation for his disappearance, leading many to believe that the devil himself had taken him through his secret gateway. Today, Stull Cemetery remains one of the most forbidden places in America. Local law enforcement strictly prohibits visitors from entering after sundown due to the high number of unexplained incidents. Still, thrill seekers cannot resist the temptation of uncovering the truth. Some return unharmed but are unable to sleep for days, haunted by nightmares and eerie visions. Others never return at all. If you ever think about visiting, remember one rule. Do not stand near the graves past midnight, and never listen to the whispers rising from the ground, because you may never leave. the American Flying Dutchman mystery, USS Hornet. Docked at the Alameda Naval Base in California stands one of the most legendary aircraft carriers in American history, USS Hornet. This warship played a crucial role in World War II, leading attacks against Japanese forces and serving as a symbol of American naval strength. But beyond its military legacy, it has earned a darker reputation as one of the most haunted ships in the world. Despite its prideful service, the ship witnessed an unusually high number of deaths and suicides. Over 1,300 sailors lost their lives on board under mysterious circumstances. Some fell overboard without reason, others were found hanged in their rooms, while others simply vanished without a trace. Many crew members reported waking up to an unexplained whispers calling their names. And in some cases, those who heard the voices disappeared soon after. Terrifying events documented by soldiers. Since being converted into a museum, countless visitors and staff members have reported bizarre and unexplainable experiences. Ghostly soldiers walking the halls. Numerous visitors have claimed to see men in World War II uniforms patrolling the corridors, only to vanish into thin air. Some of these spectral figures appear with horrific injuries, as if frozen in their moment of death. Doors that slam shut on their own. Many reports described heavy steel doors opening and closing violently, with no one near them. The sound echoes eerily through the empty halls. Screams from empty rooms. Several guests have heard disturbing cries and desperate pleas for help, coming from rooms that have been empty for decades. When they investigate, the rooms are completely vacant, yet the air inside is ice cold and suffocating. The soldiers who never sleep. One night, a security guard patrolling the ship passed by the old command room. As he walked past, he distinctly heard two sailors engaged in a conversation. When he stepped inside, the chairs were moving slightly as if someone had just sat in them. Yet the room was completely empty. Historians believe the ship's hauntings are due to the sheer number of deaths that occurred on board, but some believe the truth is far darker. There are whispers that during the war, classified experiments took place aboard the USS Hornet. Ones that were never revealed to the public. Some retired officers who served on the ship in the 1950s recalled sailors suddenly screaming in the middle of the night, and then mysteriously dying days later with no clear cause. Others insist that something inhuman now inhabits the ship, feeding off the energy of those who step inside. Today, tourists can enter and explore the ship, but it is not an ordinary experience. Many who have entered report feeling an unseen presence touching them or seeing shadowy figures moving in the distance. Some visitors lose consciousness, while others suffer from weeks of nightmares after their visit Antoinette. In 2015, a paranormal investigation team spent a night aboard recording their experiences. When they reviewed their footage, they discovered faint, ghostly faces watching them from the dark corners of the corridors, even though the ship was completely empty. Whatever the truth may be, USS Hornet is not just a relic of the past. It is a living entity carrying the souls of those who never left. Some believe the ship itself has developed a consciousness, one that refuses to let go of those who enter its domain. If you ever think about visiting, remember this warning from a former sailor who served on board. If you are walking the halls at night and feel someone behind you, do not turn around, because you might see something you were never meant to see. Double asterisk. The LaLaurie Mansion the house of vengeful spirits in New Orleans. In the heart of the old streets of New Orleans, where the wind whispers forgotten secrets, stands the LaLaurie Mansion, a towering relic of horror and mystery. Once a grand gathering place for aristocrats and high society, this mansion hides behind its elegant facade a gruesome past that has made it one of the most haunted locations in the United States. In the early 19th century, Madame Delphine LaLaurie was a socialite known for her captivating beauty and refined taste in extravagant parties. She welcomed guests with charm and grace, surrounding them with luxury and sophistication. But behind this perfect image, she concealed a sinister secret, a hidden chamber beneath the mansion transformed into a theatre of torture and death. In 1834, a fire broke out in the mansion, prompting firefighters to break down the doors and rush inside to save its inhabitants. But they were not prepared for what they discovered. Behind a concealed door on the upper floor, they found a nightmarish chamber unlike anything they had ever seen before. The air was filled with the scent of death, and mutilated bodies hung in chains. Some victims were still alive, but their suffering was beyond comprehension. Shattered bones, deep lacerations, missing limbs, and faces frozen in expressions of sheer terror. The horror spread through New Orleans like wildfire, and Delphine LaLaurie became the most hated woman in the city's history. That night, an angry mob stormed the mansion, determined to bring her to justice. But when they reached her quarters, she was gone, vanished as if the earth had swallowed her whole. Some say she'd escaped to France, while others believe she never left at all, her soul now forever bound to the mansion. From that day forward, the mansion ceased to be just a house. It became a doorway to something else. Those who pass by at night claim to hear the echoes of tormented screams seeping through the walls, as if the souls of the dead are still trapped inside. Some visitors have sworn they saw ghostly faces staring at them from the windows, even though the mansion was abandoned. Others have felt an invisible force pushing them away from the entrance, as if warning them to stay out. One of the most chilling encounters involved a famous American writer who rented the mansion hoping to find inspiration for his new novel. He lasted only a week. One night he woke up to see a woman, dressed in black, standing at the foot of his bed staring at him with hollow eyes. When he tried to scream, he felt cold hands tightening around his throat. At dawn, he found deep scratches covering his body, as if something had tried to drag him into another world. Today, the LaLaurie Mansion still stands, but it is no longer just an architectural relic. It has become a place teeming with dark energy where the past and present blur into one. Those who dare approach it after midnight report hearing faint whispers in the wind. Those who step inside face encounters that defy explanation. If you ever find yourself wandering through the historic streets of New Orleans and pass by this cursed mansion, do not stop. Do not look into the windows. And whatever you do, do not touch the doors, because there is a chance that someone inside is watching you. Cecil Hotel, the gateway to horror in the heart of Los Angeles. At first glance, Cecil Hotel appears as a grand historic building with its elegant facade reflecting the architectural beauty of the 1940s, but it is far from an ordinary hotel, a structure that breathes with dark secrets, its walls holding tales of horror and unexplained deaths that no one has ever been able to fully understand. Opened in 1927. The hotel was originally designed as a luxurious destination for wealthy travelers, but it quickly became a magnet for a very different kind of guest. As the Great Depression took hold, Cecil Hotel transformed into a hire refuge for the desperate, the criminals, and the mentally unstable. Over time, it became a breeding ground for some of the most infamous serial killers in history. The serial killers who called it home. One of the most notorious residents was Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, a ruthless serial killer and rapist who terrorized Los Angeles in the 1980s. Few people in the hotel knew that they were living alongside a monster. He would return late at night, covered in blood, discarding his stained clothes in the trash before heading up to his room as if nothing had happened. No one dared to ask questions because by then the hotel itself had already been tainted by fear. Another infamous killer, Jack Unterweger, a journalist and serial murderer from Austria, also stayed at the hotel in the 1990s, where he continued his killing spree targeting women across Los Angeles before his eventual capture. What makes the hotel even more terrifying is the high number of suicides and mysterious deaths that have occurred within its walls. From the 1950s to the present day, at least 16 confirmed suicides have taken place along with numerous unexplained deaths that police have never been able to fully explain. Many guests jumped from their windows without warning. Others were found mangled on the pavement below, with no clear indication of how they had fallen. Some simply disappeared from their rooms, never to be seen again. One particularly disturbing case involved a woman who was thrown from the 9th floor. Yet investigators could never determine if she jumped or was pushed by an unseen force. In 2013, the hotel became the center of worldwide attention due to one of the most chilling and mysterious cases in recent history. Elisa Lam, a young Canadian student, vanished without a trace. Her last known movements were captured in a surveillance video from the hotel elevator. The footage showed her acting erratically, pressing all the buttons, looking frantically outside the elevator as if she was running from something unseen before suddenly disappearing from the frame. After weeks of searching, guests at the hotel began complaining about the strange taste and color of the tap water. The investigation led authorities to the rooftop where they discovered Elisa's decomposing body floating inside the hotel's water tank. The most disturbing question remains unanswered. How did she get there? The tank was securely locked and inaccessible without triggering an alarm. No logical explanation has ever been found. Some believe she was the victim of foul play, while others are convinced that the dark energy of the hotel led her to her tragic fate. With such a grim history, it is no surprise that the Cecil Hotel has become a hub of paranormal activity. Guests who dared to stay the night have reported unsettling experiences, including strange noises, whispered voices, doors slamming shut on their own, and shadowy figures lurking in the hallways. One former guest swore that he woke up in the middle of the night to be a woman with a distorted face standing in the corner of his room, staring at him with empty eyes. When he tried to scream, she vanished instantly, as if she had never been there. Others spoke of unseen forces pushing them while walking down the hallways and a suffocating pressure on their chests as they slept. Perhaps the most chilling testimony came from Chi, a former janitor, who worked at the hotel for years, one night while cleaning a vacant room. he saw a shadowy figure reflected in the mirror standing behind him. When he turned around, there was no one there. But as he looked back at the mirror, he saw the closet door slowly creaking open by itself. Today, the hotel's owners have tried to rebrand and renovate it under a new name, but its cursed reputation remains. Reports of ghostly sightings, eerie whispers, and unexplained events continue to emerge. Even tourists who simply walk past the building claim to feel an inexplicable cold chill, as if something is watching. The haunted forest in Boston, Danvers State Hospital. Deep within the dense forests outside Boston stands Danvers State Hospital, a place said to have witnessed the worst forms of psychological and physical torment. What was once intended as a safe haven for the mentally ill became a center of horror, where inhumane experiments were conducted on patients and where hundreds met mysterious and tragic ends. Established in 1878, the hospital was designed to be an advanced facility for treating mental illness, but it quickly spiraled into neglect and abuse. The wards became overcrowded, and doctors began conducting brutal medical experiments, including high electroshock therapy and lobotomies performed without anesthesia, turning patients into soulless shells, wandering the halls, stripped of their pasts and futures, left only as vacant bodies. The suffering went beyond the harsh treatments. Many key patients simply disappeared, never to be seen again. Some believe they were buried in secret graves within the hospital grounds, while others claim their dead souls remain trapped within the walls, unable to escape, searching for justice or vengeance. After the hospital closed in 1992, paranormal investigators and thrill-seekers began exploring the abandoned halls, attempting to uncover the mysteries that shrouded the place. But what they found was more than just an abandoned asylum. It was a nightmare frozen in time, a place where the past refused to die, and where the agonized screams of the patients still lingered in the air. Visitors who dared to enter the darkened halls reported hearing whispers and muffled cries for help, as if the spirits of the tormented still roamed the asylum. Some felt a sudden car paralysis, as though an invisible force was holding them in place, preventing them from escaping. Investigators documenting paranormal activity captured disturbing footage. One night, as they filmed the hallways, they saw a man in a hospital gown standing at the end of the corridor, only for him to vanish into thin air. When reviewing the recordings later, they discovered our pale faces staring at them through the broken windows, even though they had been completely alone but inside the building. Others spoke of rooms that consume those who enter, where visitors suddenly struggle to breathe, feeling an unnatural chill wrapping around their bodies, as if something unseen is trying to pull them further into the darkness. Some who walked out of Danvers never spoke of what they had experienced, while others suffered from weeks of relentless nightmares, as if they had taken a piece of the asylum's horror with them. No one knows for sure whether Danvers State Hospital remains haunted by the spirits of those who suffered there, or if a darker force inhabits the place, unwilling to be forgotten. Although much of the hospital has been demolished, the surrounding forest still carries echoes of its sinister past, as if the very ground refuses to forget the horrors that took place there. If you ever find yourself lost near Danvers, do not follow the one whispers that call your name, and do not look into the shadows, for what lurks there may not be of this world.